Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The Department of Health clarified that the country is not facing a flu outbreak, but is seeing a normal seasonal rise in cases. Health experts, however, advise the public to wear face masks if experiencing symptoms.
The Interior Department unveils the detention facility for those proven involved in the flood control scandal. Vice
President Sara Duterte is questioning the Ombudsman's move to ease public access to SALENS, calling it a show. Senator Kiko Pangilinan claims that Chinese smuggling syndicates are allegedly working with the government to bring agri-products illegally into the country. First in the news, the Health Department says there is no flu outbreak in the country, describing the current situation as a typical seasonal uptick in cases. Even so, experts are urging Filipinos to practice caution. Here's the report.
The Department of Health is assuring the public that it's normal for flu cases to rise around this time of year. In an interview with The Big Story, DOH spokesperson Dr. Albert Domingo said there has actually been a 25% decrease in flu-like illness cases compared from the same period last year.
There is no such thing as an outbreak unless a local government unit declares it to be so. It is normal every year at around this time, from June to November when there is rain, and also when the temperature changes into the December season or January season, that flu just really goes up, and then it goes down again as we approach summer.
From September 28 to October 11, 2025, the DOH recorded 6,457 cases, lower than the 8,628 cases reported in 2024. Infectious disease expert Dr. Nina Gloriani said there's no need for widespread lockdowns. Speaking to 1PH sa Totoo Lang, she explained that most of these diseases are now endemic and people should instead practice individual lockdowns, meaning they should stay home if they have symptoms.
Pero yung sinasabing lockdown talaga, hindi natin kailangan yon. Yung COVID noon, talagang grabe. Maraming kaso, saka ang symptoms talagang grabe, no? Pero ngayon, most of these are actually yung endemic na sa atin. Andyan na lang sila, pero mas mataas ng konti pag ganitong mga panahon.
She also emphasized the importance of continuous sanitation and precautionary measures.
Yung flu vaccine ay nakakatulong talaga, no? While every year natin yung kinukuha, no?
Yes.
Kasi nag-iiba-iba yung strain na tinatawag natin, nag-iibang hugis yung mga ang virus ng flu. So, yearly merong rekomendasyon ng WHO kung ano ang dapat gamitin.
Meanwhile, in an interview with Afternoon Delight, health advocate Dr. Tony Liachon raised concerns over the Department of Health's handling of the matter. He also urged the public to wear face masks, especially to protect vulnerable and immunocompromised individuals.
Kung meron ka niyan, dahil sanay na tayo dyan, magmask ka muna. Then pagka bumaba ang surge mo, saka mo tanggalin.
Dr.
Ngayon, kung wala kang desisyon and you leave right now as Department of Health to the LGU, the decision, mahinang klase yung decision-making process na yan.
Yun. So, yesterday nga we were able to talk, di ba,
to Dr. Kawili.
Yes, oo. And saying there's a steady increase of influenza-like illness dito sa ating bansa.
Yung sa kahapon is the actual flu. May increase. Meaning, kung ano yung nakalagay sa report sa ILI, daw kasi pwedeng COVID, pwedeng anything that's respiratory. Pero kinuha niya yung data based sa hospitals na where she's at. And yung influenza mismo daw ang tumaas din. Oo.
So yun nga nakikita natin, these are just the ones who are being tested. Yung mga nandoon sa ospital na nagpapa-check up dahil they're not feeling well. And set aside mo pa yung mga kababayan natin na hindi nakakapunta sa ospital at nakakaranas ng mga ubo-sipon on the side.
Well, yung mortality rate may not be as high daw, but it's better to be safe, lalo na kunya may symptoms ka. Because yung older population daw can die from this. Because if they have comorbidities, if they have other sicknesses, delikado sa kanila. So, do it also for others. Kunyari, you're going to a crowded place na kailangan mo talagang puntahan, mag-mask ka.
All right, in other news, Senator Ping Lacson said the current leadership in the upper house must be ready for consequences if he returns as chair of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Here is the report.
Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson said Senate President Tito Soto should be prepared for consequences if he returns as chairman of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Lacson noted that some majority senators might join the Cayetano-led minority bloc should he take back the chairmanship. He added that he had already discussed this scenario with Soto when the possibility was raised. Soto, for his part, remains confident, saying public support will back any move aimed at curbing corruption. Lacson previously stepped down as Blue Ribbon Committee chair, saying he felt some of his colleagues no longer supported the direction of his inquiries. Following his resignation, Senator Erwin Tulfo, the committee's vice chairman, was appointed acting chairperson. Meanwhile, Senator Win Gatchalian expressed support for Lacson's possible return, citing his proven competence. Gatchalian added that it was Lacson's privileged speech on alleged irregularities in flood control projects that prompted the committee's investigations.
Para sa akin, maganda yun dahil unang-una, integrity. Alam naman natin yung kanyang integridad. At pangalawa, may experience siya pagdating sa investigation. In fact, lahat naman to lumawas sa kanyang privileged speech. No, siya nagbigay ng detalye, siya nagbigay ng pangalan, siya nagbigay ng lugar, siya nagbigay ng amount. Yung privilege speech niya talaga nag-trigger nito. So para sa akin, dahil siya yung may information, mas magandang ipagpatuloy na lang yung chairmanship.
And for more updates over at the Senate, we have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon, yesterday nag-usap tayo, di ba? Tapos ngayon, medyo uminit na yung usapin about the chairmanship. Na parang ready na ata si Senator Ping tanggapin.
Oo, tama. Yan yung isa sa inaabangan natin. At ang nasabi din kasi ni Senate President Tito Soto, before November 10, magiging malinaw na ang lahat. At kasama na rin dyan, bukod sa magiging direksyon ng Blue Ribbon Committee, kung sino na nga ba yung papalit dito kay Senator Ping Lacson, or kung babalik si Senator Ping, or kung Senator Erwin ba as acting chairman, magiging permanent ba, or kung hintayin pa rin natin itong desisyon ni Senator Pia Cayetano o kaya naman ni Senadora Risa Hontiveros. Pero so far, naglabas din ng statement kahapon si Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano, kung saan sinasabi niya yung tungkol nga dito sa usapin kung babalik ba si Senator Ping sa kanyang pagiging Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman, hindi na dapat pang i-drag ang minority dito when yung talks or yung problema raw na possible na naglulut doon ay nanggagaling within their ranks doon sa majority. At ang sinabi pa doon sa statement ni Senator Cayetano is during their time, nung Senator Marcoleta pa yung nanunungkulan sa Blue Ribbon, nagkaroon ng usapin nga ng coup, magpapalit na Senate leadership, papalit na si Senator Chis Escudero. Tahimik lang daw silang nagkaroon ng pagbabago doon sa liderato. So hindi na raw dapat pang gawing teleserye itong usapin tungkol nga sa komite. When all the while for them daw sa minority, ang pinaka-focus nila yung bigger picture, yung direksyon, yung integrity daw ng komite. At yun din yung sinasabi ng ilang mga senadora, tulad last time, Senator Amy Marcos, ang sinasabi niya, di naman daw sila nangingialam sa usapin ng majority. So kung yung sa Blue Ribbon Committee Chairmanship, usapin ng majority yan, sila na raw yun, di na sila mangingialam. Ang kanila lang daw, yung magiging direksyon sana ng Blue Ribbon Committee, ang nais nilang maisatuwid.
But for the record, ang minority ba ay through Senator Peter Cayetano ay nagsasabi na hindi nila nagustuhan ang naging direksyon ng investigasyon sa pamumuno ni Senator Ping Lacson sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee?
Ang nasabi ni Senator Alan last time sa media is gusto nilang magkaroon ng mas malinaw na direksyon itong Blue Ribbon Committee. Pagdating doon sa pagtatake accountability ng mga kongresista, wala raw sana magiging pagtatakip. Sana rin daw mayroong, during that time kasi nung unang nabanggit din niya ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, yun yung time na walang plenary sessions, nakasuspend siya for the week dahil sa mga budget hearings. So sinasabi rin doon, sana raw may plenary sessions para yung mga concern din ng minority tungkol doon sa komite or other related concerns o yung sinasabing nilang legislative inquiry, ma-address daw nila sana doon sa plenary session. Pero yun lang naman daw ang concern nila, yung direksyon na sana nga wala raw pagtatakip, wala raw limitation sa kung sino yung ipapatawag at iimbestigahan at ayaw nga nilang mangialam doon sa kung sino yung papalit. Sabi rin naman ni Senator Alan, natanong din niya ng media kung sakali po ba sa minority i-offer, kung kay Senator Alan ba i-offer. Sabi niya, wala rin naman daw problema sa ganon, pero ayaw niya parang maging assumption, ayaw niya raw mag-presume pa sa part na yun. Kasi nga, ang usapin daw ng chairmanship, magagaling talaga sa majority.
Meron mo, titignan ko lang kasi yung listahan ng mga majority and minority. No? So, titignan ko, saan nanggagaling yung instability sa majority? It's because, the reason why I ask this is, if kahit sabihin mo, all 9 minority senators are against Senator Ping, if solid naman ang majority behind Tito Sotto, Senator Sotto, and Senator Lacson, wala naman magiging problema sa chairmanship. So, tinignan ko yung name, si Senator JB ba ang nagiging medyo ayaw kay Senator Ping Lacson?
So far, yan yung isa sa nilinaw din natin kay SP Sotto nung nakapanayam siya ng media. Kasi ang isang nasabi ni Senator JV, siya plus may 4 pa raw na mga senador. During those weeks is tinitingnan nila yung possibility ng pagkalas nila mula sa majority, magiging independent block sila. And ang sabi naman dyan ni SP Sotto, na clear out na raw yun kasi yun yung naging sentiment daw ni Senator JV during that time na nabanggit ni Senator Ping as BRC chairman na yung mga senador, karamihan sa mga senador during the 19th Congress ay involved doon sa sinasabi budget insertions ng 2025 national budget. Pero ipinaliwanag naman daw ito ni SP Sotto kay Senator JV, so nalinaw naman na raw yun. At ang sabi pa ni SP Sotto, sure naman daw siya na kung tatanungin ulit si Senator JV, wala na raw sa usapan yung pagkalas nilang 5. And ang sabi rin kasi ni Senator Ping doon sa resignation letter niya, may growing disappointment mula sa mayorya. At yun yung isa sa pinakatinitignan niya rin na dahilan na naging option niya yung pagre-resign or yung pag-step down niya mula sa Blue Ribbon Committee chairmanship. Pero walang ni-name drop ito si Senator Ping. Pero sinasabi niya may growing disappointment plus may narrative na umiikot na tila meron daw pagtatakip o kaya may nagiging limitation lang sa mga personalidad na iniimbestigahan. So yan yung aantabayanan natin. Pero so far sabi naman ni SP Sotto, stable, minority and majority.
Oo. Meron dun sa sinasabi nila na issue ng pagtatakip at sana daw ay sa susunod na mga investigasyon na maimbitahan ang mga dapat maimbitahan, walang nasasala, etc. Meron ba pinipinpoint itong mga senador na nagsasabi na pinagtatakpan o natatakpan sa investigasyon sa pamumuno ni Senator Ping Lacson?
Itong si Senator JV, sa mga lumipas na panayam niya sa media, ang sinasabi niya, itong nangyayaring direksyon daw ng investigation or yung issue ng anomalous flood control projects, parang nababaling daw sa Senado yung atensyon, whereas yung issue daw no, may parking fees, na merong SOP, merong commission, may kickback, nanggagaling daw yun sa House of Representatives sa Kamara. So yun yung isa sa nagiging concern ni Senator JV noong mga lumipas na linggo. And so far, ang naging huling info naman kasi na sinabi ni Acting Chairman ng Blue Ribbon na si Senator Erwin Tulfo, itutuloy nila yung iniwan ni Senator Ping na si Ako Bicol Party List, si dating Representative Zaldico, iimbitahan sa pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon. Even itong si dating House Speaker Martin Romualdez and also in observance ng interparliamentary courtesy, magbibigay din sila ng invitation through House Speaker Bo GD. And so far, yun yung ipagpapatuloy nila. Even itong si Orly Gutesa na hanggang sa ngayon wala pa tayong malinaw na impormasyon kung nasaan na nga ba ito. Yun, ipagpapatuloy nila yung paghahanap nito at inaasahan na magpepresenta rin sila sa pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon.
Right.
Are they investigating, Marimon, yung authenticity or yung truthfulness ni Orly Gutesa? Kasi ang daming questions about him, pati yung kwento about his affidavit.
Oo, yan nga yung nasabi ni Senator Tulfo na kaya siya nakikipag-coordinate din sa NBI para ma-locate itong si Gutesa kasi nga nais pa nilang marinig o nais pa nilang kilatisin itong si Gutesa, yung naging testimony niya. Kasi nung last time itong si Gutesa hindi nga siya nag-apply sa Witness Protection Program kasi sabi niya kaya niyang protektahan yung sarili niya and even yung sa pagpapanotaryo ng kanyang sworn affidavit naging questionable pa. So yun yung nais ipagpatuloy ng Blue Ribbon Committee and so far, though we are also anticipating kung magkakaroon ng pagbabago, ang nakikita din ng Blue Ribbon is huling 2 pagdinig tungkol sa flood control projects and then after nun, magiging pagdinig naman or probe nila tungkol sa farm-to-market roads and possibly other issues pa na may endorse o may raise dito sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Plus yung initial report, yun yung isa sa inaantabayanan din natin na ilalabas ng Blue Ribbon Committee.
Ayun, Ako kasi, Marymon, at the end of the day, I was thinking, I feel, that we are wasting too much time and energy na pag-usapan yung nararamdaman, yung feelings ng mga senador natin, when in fact, na dapat ay sila ay nagfo-focus doon sa investigasyon, at hindi dito sa kung ano yung dapat nilang maramdaman towards this investigation. Of course, we would like to know what's happening to the investigation. At nabanggit mo nga na maglalabas na sila ng initial evaluation. But from then on, what else are we going to be expecting from the Senate, regarding this investigation sa flood control, yung farm-to-market road, and of course, the budget na until now, pag-uusapan din, of course, yung unprogrammed funds, paano sila magko-consolidate ng House of Representatives.
Angela, ang nasabi ni Senator Tulfo, itong ginagawa ng Blue Ribbon Committee is in aid of legislation, not to prosecute. Kaya itong nakikita nilang direksyon, bukod doon sa initial report, is kung ano nga bang mga panukalang batas ang maaari nilang gawin, i-construct, para masiguro na hindi na mauulit itong anomalous na infra projects in general na, kasi nga lumalawak na from flood control, meron farm-to-market roads, meron pa yung mga walk-away centers, health centers na either substandard siya, hindi pa nasisimulan, or uncompleted. So malawak-lawak pa ang tatahakin ng Blue Ribbon ng mga issue. Pero bukod naman dyan, by November, around second week ng November, aasahan natin magbabalik na yung plenary session, November 10. Doon natin aasahan na mangyayari naman yung tinatawag na plenary budget deliberations. Doon pag-uusapan sa floor ng mga senador, itong mga dumaan na mga budget mula sa mga committee hearings. And then around third week ng November to early week of December, ayon kay Finance Committee Chairman Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, naasahan naman natin yung BICAM, kung saan both House na pati itong Senado pag-uusapan at lilinisin na talaga nila, paplansyahin nila itong panukalang pondo for 2026. Inaasahan ni Senator Sherwin na baka mahaba-haba ang magiging usapin tungkol dito sa unprogrammed appropriations, doon sa lump sum funds, and yung tinitignan ng Senado na slashing pa ng budget. For example, dito sa DPWH, tinitignan nila baka pwede pang bawasan ng 20 to 30% pa across the board para masiguro na walang overcosting or overpriced na mga infra projects under DPWH. Isa rin sa tinitignan ng Senado, yung agency-specific infra projects, ililipat na sa mga ahensya. Tulad ng farm-to-market roads, imbis sa DPWH, ibibigay na siya sa Agri. Yung mga eskwelahan, imbis sa DPWH, ibibigay na yan sa DepEd. For health, yung mga health center, imbis sa DPWH, mapupunta sa DOH. Pero pag nabigay sa kanila yung capacity, either special provision daw or direct transfer, choice na daw nila yon. Kung private-public partnership ang gagawin, kung sa LGU ipagagawa yung infra projects na yon, or kung sa DPWH pa rin sila magpapakonstruct. So yun ang sabi ni Senator Sherwin, target nila hopefully before the day of Christmas. Usually kasi ang budget na pipirmahan after Christmas Hopefully daw bago magpasko, malinis na raw at sure na wala nang kikwestiyonin sa 2026 national budget.
Meron kasi yung pinag-uusapan dito yung sa budgeting na tanggalin sa DPWH because of the corruption issues at ilipat sa mga agency-specific na gagawa ng project. Sinabi ba ni Senator Gatchalian kung if they also plan to investigate the agencies involved? Kasi sila rin may corruption allegations at kung itatransfer sa kanila yung power of appointing projects, baka doon naman magkaroon ng corruption.
Oo, yan yung isa sa inaaral nila Senator Sherwin ngayon. Kasi pagka napunta na nga doon, ang tinitignan nila, mas mabilis na implementation nitong mga infra projects and to also assure na merong accountability. Mas mabilis daw yung habol kung sakaling makikitang may mga infra projects na hindi natutuloy, hindi pa nagagawa, or nade-delay. Kasi for example, ilang libong mga classroom for 2025, 22 lang ang nagawa for the year. So ang dami pa, 42. Yung mga pending, 42 pa yung mga hindi pa nasisimulan. So ang tinitignan nila dito para mas mabilis yung surveillance, ibababa ito sa mga ahensya. Pero still, they will also be keeping watch doon sa implementation ito. Kaya ang sabi rin ngayon, nakikita nila, yung extra budget, pag tinanggal sa DPWH, 2.7 billion pesos mabibigay sa COA para sa kanila pre-auditing starting next year. So hindi bababaan ng pondo itong mga proyekto hanggat hindi raw napi-pre-audit o nasisilip ng COA muna. So yun yung isa sa mga safeguard na nakikita nila at paplansyahin nila yan bago mapirmahan yung 2026 national budget.
Alright, maraming salamat sa ating mobile journalist, Marymon Reyes.
The Interior Department has unveiled a newly prepared detention facility for those proven involved in the flood control scandal. Here's the report.
Each room has 5 double-deck beds, a sink, and its own restroom. There's also a laundry area, a chapel, and a receiving area for visitors. This is the new detention facility inside the New Quezon City Jail in Payatas, where those accused in the anomalous flood control projects will be detained. According to the Department of the Interior and Local Government and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, the facility is 100% ready. DILG Secretary John Vic Remulla personally inspected the site.
Judging from the hearings, we immediately thought of a plan of action so that we wouldn't get flat-footed. Our problem is that the Camp Crame facilities are no longer available to detain these people, and the expected amount is no longer, the Camp Crame facilities are unable to handle them. So the nearest to the Sandigan Bayan is the Quezon City Jail.
The facility is equipped with CCTV cameras both inside and outside, and gadgets will not be allowed inside the detention area. But Remulla assured the public that no special treatment will be given.
We saw the last Napoles case. They were detained in single occupancy rooms with air conditioners, access to cell phones, access to unlimited visitors, and they even had visitors overnight. They would be gambling 3 nights a week straight. And so this would be much different.
Just last week, the Department of Justice turned over its initial findings on the ghost flood control projects to the Office of the Ombudsman. Remulla said the completion of this facility demonstrates the Marcos administration's determination to pursue accountability.
Yes, it is a deliberate effort of the Marcos administration to show that justice will be served to those who violated the law.
Remulla said the detention facility sends a clear message. The government is serious about holding those involved in the flood control scandal accountable.
Dapat binabaha din yung detention facility.
Maswerte sila. They're going to be inside that.
Maganda ha, hindi sila doon sa overcrowded.
This is the new one eh. Oo. Dapat sabi nga ng iba, dapat iparamdam sa kanila yung yung GenPop.
Exactly.
Yung GenPop kung saan yung nagro-rotate yung mga preso natin na yung mas mahirap na, di ba?
That's why hindi mo maaalis din also sa ibang tao na mag-isip na baka binibigyan ng ng special treatment yung mga kaso, 'di ba? Yung mga makakasuhan dito sa flood control.
Tsaka excuse me, mga bilyonaryo yan dahil sa nakaw. Ito nga mga minsan may mga inosente pa nga diyan sa GenPop na nakita ko one time nung pumunta ako diyan.
Very yung living condition sa
pumunta ako diyan one time sa QC jail. Pumunta ako diyan one time sa QC jail. Nag-rotate sila kasi sa isang cell dapat 15 to 20, may 200. So each prisoner has 30 minutes to sleep sa kama, tapos magbabayad siya ng 12,000 a month for 30 minutes.
Pagkama yun. Pero kapag papag or karton, iba din ang bayad.
Iba din ang bayad daw, mas mura. Tapos pag hindi ka na makatiis, pwede kang magbayad ng 5 pesos daw para makatulog. Oo, at that time, nakwento sa akin, pwede para makatulog ka, pero nakatayo sa corner. Pero the reason may magbabayad ka is para makasandal ka. Yung iba kasi natutulog nakatayo lang walang sinasandalan.
Sobrang 300 plus yung maximum capacity ng isang cell.
Ito daw, this new wing can accommodate up to, or may bakante pa ng, I think 800 ang capacity nito sa may Payatas malaki. Ito yung dati was the one in Kamuning? Was Kamuning ba yun?
Pero yun nga sinasabi nila, although the courts will decide kung saan sila ipakukulong, of course, dito daw, according sa law, kung Sandigan Bayan ang mag-try, ito yung pinakamalapit.
Yes, because this is roughly around 10 kilometers away from Sandigan Bayan. Kung Payatas ito...
Yeah, that's in New
Payatas nga ito, iikot ka lang naman sa Commonwealth Iikot sa Sandigan Bayan. And this is the nearest possible jail facility. Ayun.
Alright, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News.
To 304.02 million, which is 5.52% higher than the 288.12 million in 2025. Given the said 2026 budget, the OGCC will ensure that 100% of all court pleadings will be filed within the prescribed period. It will also ensure that 82% of all contracts will be reviewed and legal opinions will be rendered within the prescribed period. For the Office of the Solicitor General, the 2026 recommended budget amounts to 1.74 billion, which is 5.66% higher than the 1.65 billion in 2025. The OSG aims to act upon at least 99% of all cases referred to it in 2025 within 30 days. For resolution of petition for naturalization, the agency intends to resolve all by the end of the year. For the PPA, the 2026 recommended budget amounts to 1.20 billion, which is about 5.68% higher than the 1.14 billion in 2025. With this 2026 budget, PPA will ensure that 98.88% of clients will be compliant to their terms of their probation and or parole condition, and that is 97.31% will participate in its rehabilitation program. For the Presidential Commission on Good Government, the 2026 recommended budget amounts to 275.25 million, which is 57.15% higher than the 175.15 million in 2025. The PCGG targets at least 715 million of assets will be submitted to the Privatization Council for disposition. And for the Public Attorney's Office, the 2026 recommended budget amounts to 6.41 billion, which is 18.25% higher than the 5.42 billion in 2025. Lastly, the Office of the Alternative Dispute Resolution, the 2026 recommended budget amounts to 160.58 million, which is 0.14% higher than the 160.35 million in 2025. Given the said budget, the OADR will ensure that 1,740 ADR practitioners and implementers will be trained, and 100% of application for accreditation and approval of the ADR training program will be acted upon within the prescribed period. Sir, this ends our presentation. We are looking forward to your favorable consideration of our budget.
Maraming salamat, ASEC. Thank you for the budget presentation.
That is the ongoing budget hearing in the Senate for DOJ. All right, in other news, Vice President Sara Duterte is questioning the Ombudsman's move to ease public access to SALNs, calling it a show. Here's a report.
Senator Riza Ontiveros has declared a total net worth of 18.9 million pesos in her 2024 Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth. She is the first senator this year to make her SALN public, an act of transparency and accountability amid renewed calls for public disclosure among government officials. This comes after the Ombudsman under Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya issued a new memorandum making it easier for the public to access the SALNs of government officials. At the House of Representatives, Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Co also urged officials to release their SALNs voluntarily. Following Speaker Boji D's statement that the chamber will issue guidelines for the disclosure of lawmakers' SALNs. The SALN serves as a record of a public official's wealth, listing total assets, liabilities, and net worth. The discussion over transparency has resurfaced amid the controversy on alleged flood control projects anomalies. However, Vice President Sara Duterte questioned the timing of the new Ombudsman directive, saying the process of obtaining SALNs has always been straightforward.
Pinag-aaralan ko po bakit gumawa pa sila ng ganitong kwento na pwede nang kunin ng SALN. At sigurado ako meron na naman yung dahilan, may motibo.
Recall that under former Ombudsman Samuel Martires, appointed by former President Rodrigo Duterte, access to SALNs was restricted and required the officials' written consent. Now, under the new rules, that consent is no longer needed. Malacanang earlier said that President Bongbong Marcos is willing to release his own SALN in line with transparency efforts.
Civic group Tindig Pilipinas has called on Ombudsman Boying Remulla to investigate the alleged basis of an impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. The group stressed that the Ombudsman has a duty to probe any serious misconduct by public officials that could warrant removal through impeachment. Tindig Pilipinas expressed hope that the Ombudsman would act as a genuine protector of the people in line with the 1987 Constitution. It added that such an investigation is crucial to restoring public trust in government institutions and strengthening adherence to the rule of law. And to talk more about this matter, we have Tindig Pilipinas convener Rafaela David joining us today via Zoom. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Thanks for joining us.
Hello po, Ms. Angela, Sir Angelo, and syempre sa mga tagapakinig natin ngayong umaga.
Of course, Ms. Rafaela, ano po bang klaseng investigasyon or aksyon ang gusto po natin na ma-expect po natin from the Ombudsman?
Yes, we're hoping that urgently ay magsimula na yung investigation ng Ombudsman, lalo na doon sa mga important na articles na nakalagay sa impeachment that already passed in the lower house na we were hoping nga ay dapat natuloy into a Senate trial nitong earlier this year, no? Pero dahil naudlot yon, we're hoping na with the new Ombudsman, we are cautiously optimistic na sana masimulan na yung investigation doon sa mga allegations of corruption, lalo na with regards sa Confi and Intelligence Funds ni VP Sara na nakita naman natin in recent hearings ay parang naging personal pork ng ating Vice Presidente. And so we're hoping na masimulan na ito at makita rin kung ano pa yung mga ibang articles of impeachment at ma-uncover natin yung mga evidence that will hopefully shed light saan ba na talaga napunta yung pera ng taong bayan.
Yes, Rafaela, kasi a lot of people are also questioning na also yung ruling ng Supreme Court with regard to the impeachment. Kasama ba ito sa panawagan mo? So take a look at how the justices came up with a decision.
Well, we're really hoping na yung Supreme Court will still reconsider yung naging basis ng kanilang pagsabi na unconstitutional daw yung naging process ng impeachment sa lower house. So may MR pa po na nakafile dyan. In fact, some of our citizen complainants na kasama rin po namin kahapon na nagbigay ng liham sa Ombudsman ay kasama po dun sa mga nagfile ng motion for reconsideration sa Supreme Court. So tayo ay umaasa na talagang i-reconsider kasi marami talagang nag-question ng mga legal luminaries dun sa naging SC ruling na yon. Pero alam naman natin, hindi pwedeng matulog ang hustisya, kaya we're hoping na at least sa bagong Ombudsman ay matutukan din, lalo na ngayon na talagang gising ang taong bayan sa napakahalagang issue ng korupsyon, sa budget man, sa projects man ng DPWH. Klaro na galit ang mamamayan sa lahat ng kurakot at kasama si VP Sara sa dapat managot.
Well, given na February na ang pwedeng filing ng bagong impeachment case, are you banking on that or are you still hoping for the MR for this last impeachment that was filed?
Well, we're hopeful na matuloy yung MR, we're hopeful ma-archive sa Senate, pero at the end of the day, mahalagang masimula na yung fact-finding. Kasi habang tumatagal, hindi natin alam, baka mamaya yung mga ebidensya na lumabas ay hindi na natin mahagilap. Kaya importante at merong kapangyarihan ng Ombudsman to investigate any serious misconduct in office allegedly committed by officials removable by impeachment. And itong investigation na ito may be for the purpose of filing a verified complaint for impeachment. So hopefully by sabihin natin kung magkaroon man ng desisyon na mag-file muli ng impeachment by February, at least nagagawa na yung fact-finding and investigation ng Ombudsman.
Right. Of course, dyan sa Tindig Pilipinas, Ms. Rafaela, no, how do you guys see or view the role of the new Ombudsman, knowing that he is someone perceived as politically close to the administration?
napakahalaga na bantayan natin yung mga gagawing investigations ng Ombudsman para makita na seryoso talaga sila in investigating hindi lamang yung mga political opponents ng administration, pero even yung mga sangkot doon sa at mas malapit sa sabihin na natin sa administrasyon para maipakita na may patutunguhan talaga itong mga corruption investigations, hindi lang ng Ombudsman, pati ng ICI. Kaya talagang napakahalagang patuloy magbatsyag, magbantay ang taong bayan. Kaya nga po kami sa Tindig Pilipinas, meron po tayong White Friday protest. Every Friday ay magkikita-kita tayo sa EDSA at iba't ibang lugar para ipakitang nagbabantay ang taong bayan hanggang sa may makulong at may mga kasong ma-file. Allies man of the President or the Vice President. Kasi klaro naman, basta ang taong bayan ay mulat na ang lahat ng mga nangurakot ng kaba ng bayan ay dapat managot.
I'd like to ask na, kasi ang daming groups who are angry right now at corruption from both sides of the fence, no? But the question here is, with the current president, kasi kay President Marcos, we've seen an increase in corruption and how brazen they are. Ang laki ng mga amounts na kinukuha. Even if PBBM is not part of that corruption scheme, do you think he is accountable by poorly implementing these projects as the President of the Philippines?
Well, we hope to see in the ICI kung hanggang saan umaabot talaga itong corruption na ito. Pero klaro sa atin na syempre he has to be responsible, lalo na as president doon sa saan ba napupunta ang budget and in making sure that his allies are put in check. So para sa atin, mahalaga ang pananagutan sa lahat ng antas ng pamahalaan. Kaya talagang very important na maipakita niya at lalo na ng ICI na seryoso sila in filing cases kung lalo na sa mga tinatawag nating big fishes. Wala dapat sacred cow dito sa investigations na ito. Dapat nga ay live stream yung ICI na yan para sigurado na walang hocus-pocus na nagagawa. So hindi lang live stream, public at open din sa CSO oversight para yung mga citizens group sana ay nakakapagbigay din ng third party observers doon sa nangyayari. Ang mahalaga lang sa atin, hindi sana masakyan yung galit ng taong bayan ng nila VP Sara, kasi recently nakikita natin sa interviews parang ginagamit at sinasakyan nila yung galit ng taong bayan laban sa korupsyon na nakikita natin under this government. Hindi parang mali naman ata yun kasi sumasakay sila sa galit ng taong bayan, and we think this is the height of hypocrisy, lalo na just months ago ay na-impeach siya sa lower house at hanggang ngayon hindi pa natin kilala kung sino si Mary Grace Piatos. So hindi natin ipapahijack yung galit ng taong bayan para sa political gain ng kahit sino man, kasi mahalagang ang ating panawagan ay para sa taong bayan.
Well, having said that, do you think that they're using this issue para mas matabunan yung issue ng usapin ng confidential funds, impeachment complaint laban kay VP Sara Duterte?
Just some days ago, sinabi ni VP Sara na yung CIF ginamit daw para mag-investigate ng corruption sa DepEd under his father's presidency. So, nakakapagtaka na parang nagbago yung kwento at biglang siya pa yung nag-investigate at anti-corruption champion. Klaro naman na meron ding allegations sa kanya ng grave abuse of power at meron ding mga indications na ghost project naman ginamit yung confi funds niya at naging personal port niya ito. Kaya napakahalaga na maging kilatisin nating mga mamamayan. Huwag tayong magpapaikot kasi lahat ng mga leader natin na nangurakot sa bayan dapat panagutin at kasama si VP Sara nun.
Yung grupo niya has always been there, no, at the forefront of checks and balances, no. But this time I'd like to ask kasi we have si former President Rodrigo Duterte, bago siya naging presidente, there was this issue of yung bank accounts niya worth 2 billion na hindi pa na-address. And now you also have the issue of President Bongbong Marcos, who is the administrator of his estate na may tax delinquencies. Ngayon, I know you're taking a look at the flood control projects right now, but there's a larger corruption going on. Piyapasilip nyo ba ito lahat, all of this?
Nako, yan pong nabanggit nyo, buti nabanggit nyo yung sa 2 billion sa bank accounts. Isa po sa mga nilagay natin sa liham natin kay Ombudsman kahapon ay sana tingnan din yung possible na ill-gotten wealth. Kapag tiningnan yung SALN ni VP Sara in the past at meron ngang nakita na 2 billion dumaan sa kanilang bank accounts ng kanyang tatay, ay kailangan ma-review kung ito ba ay nanggaling sa ill-gotten wealth at baka culpable din siya. At isa ito sa mga articles of impeachment na gusto natin ipasilip. So lahat sana ito ay makita at many investigations have to be conducted, including a possible ill-gotten wealth ng ating ni VP Sara. At gayon din ang ibang mga politicians. Kaya gusto rin nating i-recognize na buti na lang na undo yung restrictive policy on SALN release ng nakaraang administrasyon. Kasi with easier policies sa pagkuha ng SALN, mas masisilip na natin sino ba yung biglang lumobo, yung kanilang wealth and assets. At gayon din makompare natin, yung SALN niya, ganito lang yung amount, bakit parang sobrang mahal ng kanyang mga sasakyan at ng kanyang ibang property. So para makita natin kung sino ba yung parang talagang kumikita sa kaba ng taong bayan.
Well, talking about SALN, kanina sinabi nga dun sa report namin na yung naging statement ni VP Sara na what's new about SALN, ang PCIJ naman, meron naman daw access sa kanilang SALN. Si Senator Trillanes, ganoon din, pinapakita naman nun. So parang this is just daw a show on the side of Ombudsman. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, early on, we've already been saying na restrictive yung naging ruling na memo ng inappoint na ombudsman ng kanyang tatay kung saan kailangan ng consent noong politiko bago i-release yung SALN niya. Siyempre, sinong magko-consent, lalo na kung may tinatago. Pero yan dapat ay public record, yan dapat ay publicly available sa mga mamamayan. Kung tutuusin nga kami, ang gusto namin dapat automatic nilalabas yan . And kami po sa Akbayan, including our congresspersons in the House, and gayon din si Risa Ontiveros, sila po ang nanguna maglabas ng SALN. Kaya proud po ako sa mga kasama natin na tumitindig sa loob ng Senado at sa House para maipakita ano ba ang good example ng isang political leader. Hindi na dapat yan hinihingi. Dapat nire-report natin sa taong bayan. Hindi lang yung ating nagawa, pero gayon din yung ipakita sa kanila yung nakaya tayong mapagkatiwalaan sa kapangyarihang ibinigay nila by releasing our SALNs.
Alam ko you have your weekly, correct me if I'm wrong, you have your weekly rallies ongoing. But ano yung next big event nyo na aabangan ng mga kababayan natin? I understand meron ata sa November? End of November?
Yes po, November 30 po yung next big event na ating pagsasama-samahan. In fact po, nag-countdown na po kami going to November 30. 40 days po ngayon going to November 30. Itong countdown na ito po ay countdown din. Kasi po ang panawagan natin sa ICI, dapat bago November 30 ay dapat may mga kaso nang ma-file ang ICI at dapat may makulong na. So yung countdown na yun po ay 40 days going to November 30 bago tayo magkita-kita sa EDSA. Sana may nakulong na, sana may mga big cases filed na ang ICI. Pero leading up to that po, we do have our White Friday protests na kinoconduct sa EDSA at gayon din sa iba't ibang pockets of protest around the country. At gayon din po this Saturday, mag-plug na rin ako, may pa-Halloween ghost protest yung ating mga youth, ang Youth Against Kurakot, para sama-sama takutin natin yung mga nagnanakaw sa ating kabanang bayan at sana ibalik na nila yung kanilang ninakaw kundi lagot sila sa mamamayan.
Pwede daw mag-costume sa ghost protest?
Yes po, magko-costume party po tayo, sakto Halloween.
Nahamon niyo na ba si VP Sara na maglabas ng SALN niya?
Yan po ang aming paulit-ulit na panawagan. Dapat maglabas na siya. Gayon din actually si Presidente at yung iba pang mga political leaders natin na maglabas na ng SALN. Ito po yung tinatawag naming Akbayan SALN Reveal Challenge. Kasama po si VP Sara doon, hindi po siya pwedeng makatakas.
Alright, thank you for your time, Tindig Pilipinas Convener Rafaela David.
Maraming salamat po.
In celebration of National Indigenous Peoples Month, the Bases Conversion and Development Authority, or BCDA, is reaching out to the Aita communities in Tarlac, not just through support but through sustainable education. The details in this report by Mobile Journal, Amy Atienza.
Ito ang Aita Ethno-Botanical Center sa Tarlac kung saan higit 30 individual mula sa kalapit na Aita communities ang natutulungan ng Bases Conversion and Development Authority na makapag-aral sila patungkol sa kabuhayan at agrikultura. As part of the National Indigenous Peoples Month, BCDA initiated a sustainable 16-week livelihood training project that would help preserve the culture and practices of the Aita communities in New Clark City in Capas, Tarlac. These trainings focus on sustainable agriculture, entrepreneurship, food forest management, and native plant cultivation.
Itong proyekto natin to, kalakip dito, yung tinuturuan natin silang magtanim, tinuturuan natin sila ng entrepreneurship, kasi ang ano natin dito, we want them to thrive and be sustainable also.
BCDA and its partners also seek to integrate the traditional knowledge of Aitas and modern technology to help alleviate the lives of these communities and even of the country. Amid its objective to promote better livelihood education among the Aitas, BCDA also shares the struggle of its funding a few months into the program. Still, the agency still wishes to push through to help more individuals learn and develop their own livelihood.
Sasabihin ko na, funding talaga yung unang kailangan natin kasi syempre government tayo, So medyo limited yung ating funding. And we are lucky naman na in some of our projects, nakakatap tayo ng mga very generous corporations.
For AEDC member Josie Yamson, this project is also a way to help not just oneself, but also their families, especially in their financial struggle.
Malaking tulong naman po sa amin po yun pagka nahawakan na po namin po yun para kung paano po namin mapalago po. At para na rin po sa aming pamilya po, sa mga nag-aaral na aming anak, para dito po sa trabaho namin po dito.
For Project Manager and Professor Charito Sebastian, food security projects like these also bind science and economics together. The Aita Ethno-Botanical Center is a huge help to know the country's rice consumption, thus avoiding the promotion of rice imports in the country.
Sinasabi ng mga ekonomista, wala tayong comparative advantage sa rice, no? Di ba? Narinig niyo yan? Kaya nag-i-import tayo. So ang ginagawa natin dito, pag nag-aaralan natin, gaano bang karaming bigas ang makokonsume nila?
Ito pa lamang daw ang simula dahil inaasahan na aabot sa 300 individual ang matutulungan ng ganitong mga programa. Mga kapatid, Mobile Journal, Amy Atienza po, hatid ang mukha ng balita.
Don't go away, we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan says Chinese smuggling syndicates are allegedly working with the government to bring agri-products illegally into the country. Pangilinan said there is a circumstantial evidence linking employees from several agencies to the operations of Chinese smugglers. He called the scheme not just smuggling but a betrayal of Filipino farmers. The senator lamented that despite repeated discoveries, no major smuggler has ever been jailed.
There is sufficient circumstantial evidence to believe that Chinese smuggling syndicates in connivance with local businessmen, protected by a number of employees and officials of the government in the BOC, NBI, PNP, DA, and perhaps even in the DOJ and the Bureau of Immigration, who allow these Chinese smugglers and their local partners to operate freely.
Parts of the country will experience rains today, October 21, due to easterlies, according to Pagasa. Cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms are expected over eastern Visayas, Caraga, Davao region, and Batanes. Meanwhile, Metro Manila and other areas will likely see isolated rain showers or thunderstorms. The Weather Bureau added that severe tropical storm Feng Shen, formerly Ramil, is now outside the Philippine area of responsibility and no longer directly affecting the country.
There's still no technology capable of predicting when an earthquake will occur. That's why local governments like Marikina City are stepping up their own preparedness measures against the looming threat of the big one in Metro Manila. Para bigyan ng mukha ang balita, Mobile Journal, Ivan Tarique.
Sunod-sunod ang mga malalakas na lindol sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. Kaya naman kanya-kanyang paghahanda na ang mga lokal na pamahalaan sa posibleng pagtama ng tinaguriang The Big One sa Metro Manila. Duck cover and hold. Yan ang ginawa ng mga empleyado ng Marikina City Hall matapos tumunog ang sirena ng hudyat ng malakas na lindol. Bahagi ito ng malawakang earthquake evacuation drill ng lungsod para subukin ang kahandaan ng mga tao at ng mga pasilidad kung mangyari ang isang 7.2 magnitude na lindol o The Big One. Oras na gumalaw ang West Valley Fault. Ayon sa FIVOC, ang West Valley Fault ay huling gumalaw noong 1658 at may 400 hanggang 600 years sa pagitan ng mga major movement. Kaya habang papalipit ang taong 2058, tumataas ang posibilidad ng paggalaw nito. Isa ang Marikina sa mga lungsod na dinadaanan ng West Valley Fault. Sa Barangay Barangka, kitang-kita pa nga ang nakamarkang linya sa kalsada na tanda ng fault line sa ilalim nito. Dahil dito, puspusan ang paghahanda ng lungsod para mabawasan ang posibleng mga casualties sakaling tumama ang malakas na lindol.
Iba na yung may alam tayo, at the same time, we know kung ano yung threat. It's better na tayo, as a city, handa tayo.
Kasabay ng earthquake drill, inilansad din ng lungsod ang mga bagong identified safe zones o mga lugar na maaaring takbuhan ng mga residente sa oras sa sakuna. Ipinakita rin ng Marikina Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office ang kanilang mga kagamitan tulad ng mga hydraulic machine at vibroscope na magagamit sa search and rescue operations.
Maliban dun sa visual, meron din siyang audio na maririnig namin pag sinuksok namin to kung merong trap victim dun sa loob, kumakatok, sumisipol.
Sa kabila ng mga hakbang na ito, minado ang ilang residente na nanatili ang takot sa posibleng pagtama ng The Big One. Kaya't kanya-kanya sila ng paraan ng paghahanda mula sa paglalagay ng go bags hanggang sa pagtatakda ng mga lugar kung saan magkikita-kita ang pamilya kapag may sakuna.
May takot talaga. Siyempre, hindi naman natin alam kung kailan. Kaya minsan, talagang nagigising ako sa gabi.
Sa oras ng lindol, payo ng mga eksperto, manatiling kalmado at huwag magpanik. Kailangan din ng presence of mind para mailigtas hindi lang iyong buhay, kundi maging buhay ng iyong pamilya. Mga kapatid, Mobile Journal, Ivan Tarique po, hatid ang mukha ng balita.
The Asian Institute of Management is launching 2 new master's programs in AI and data analytics and cybersecurity management to equip professionals with the skills and ethical training needed to lead in a rapidly evolving digital economy. Mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho has a report.
As artificial intelligence and cybersecurity continue to reshape industries, the Asian Institute of Management is stepping up, reintroducing 2 master's programs that respond to the growing demand for leaders who can bridge technology and strategy. The Master in AI and Data Analytics and the Executive Master in Cybersecurity Management are the latest evolution of AIM's tech-driven degrees, crafted to prepare professionals to lead in an economy powered by data, innovation, and digital trust.
To be able to get things done, we need the most competent individuals, and we need to prepare our students with that level of competence.
Professors also highlighted adaptability at the core of these reimagined programs, which ensure graduates can lead confidently despite change.
The nature of technology, especially in AI and cybersecurity, is always changing.
Professor Ko describes AI as the evolution of analytics, allowing businesses to anticipate trends and sustain their competitive advantage. The MIDA program, divided into 6 terms and delivered through a hybrid learning format, is designed to build future AI and analytics leaders who can turn insights into action. Its first program intake is set for April 2026. Meanwhile, the Executive Master in Cybersecurity Management is also offered in a hybrid modality. The EMCSM program runs for 6 terms with 38 units to build accountable and resilient leaders amid growing digital threats. Its first intake is in September 2026.
We train for the competence, but we also train for the ethics. Because what is knowledge for if you cannot lead it ethically?
Through these programs, AIM reaffirms its mission to train ethical, future-ready leaders who can drive digital transformation in business. Kapatid Denise Valdesancho, We Are One News.
In sports, Filipino tennis star Alex Ayala reached a new career high, climbing to 53rd in the latest Women's Tennis Association rankings on Monday. The 20-year-old improved by 1 spot from her previous best of 54th. Ayala is set to continue her campaign at the Guangzhou Open in China, where she will compete in both the singles and doubles divisions. Seeded 4th in the 32-player singles main draw, she will face an opponent from the ongoing qualifying rounds. She will also return to doubles for the first time since Wimbledon, teaming up with Nadia Kinchikov of Ukraine.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
Kapatid, you're all sides all the time.